Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Donald Trump won the election last week by successfully exploiting a key division among Americans, those who are for the system and those who are against it, broadly put. President-elect managed to build a narrow majority with what you might call an anti-system coalition. People who are angry at our government, resentful of our institutions because they feel they have been failed by them. And lots of people feel that for very good reason. And now he has chosen perhaps the most high-profile figure in the anti-system world for a top job in his cabinet. Of course, I'm talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's Trump's new pick for Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services. Now, Kennedy's a perfect example of the kind of complicated ideological stew that is the anti-system coalition. For most of his life, of course, like his family and his dad, he was a Democrat. He was working as an environmental lawyer, fighting to clean up pollution, protect against climate change. Noble pursuits, good causes. Over the past couple of decades, Kennedy's views about science and health became a lot more complex, veering into some really very dangerous conspiracy theories, particularly about disease and vaccines in particular. He has a lot of opinions about a lot of topics. And I want to be fair and try to be kind of even-tempered here off the top, because some of them are perfectly defensible. As doctor and writer Rachel Bedard explains in a piece in the New York Times today, RFK's argument, for instance, that the country underinvests in interventions that prevent chronic disease in favor of overtreating patients with drugs once they've fallen ill has significant merit and is not especially controversial among healthcare providers. Democratic Governor Jared Polis of Colorado even went so far as to praise Kennedy's plan to eliminate the nutrition department at the Food and Drug Administration, saying the entire nutrition regime is dominated by big corporate ag rather than human health, and they do more harm than good. Again, there's the core of a really perfectly good critique there. And I'll say, I think it's clear to a lot of the folks in America, a lot of people watching this, that our current food and health system is broken in some deep and fundamental ways. Our foods are full of sugar and chemical additives. Industrial farming, industrial ag cause incredible damage. A study just out this week finds that 3/4 of U.S. adults are now overweight or obese. All of that is linked to chronic disease, including diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. Life expectancy also continues to decline in the United States, but not in our peer countries, although a lot of that has to do with fentanyl and opioids. Again, none of this is a new critique. If you're like me and you spent most of your life on the progressive left, you've been sort of engaged with this critique for decades. In fact, it just so happens, 16 years ago, another incoming administration made health and food a key policy priority. Oh, and the right absolutely lost their mind about it.
Tonight, your America is turning into a nanny state thanks to the Obama administration's efforts to rein in the junk food industry.
I don't need Michelle Obama telling me as a mother what I'm going to feed my kids. I don't need the government to fix obesity.
I don't want the government telling me that I can't put salt on my food. Isn't that our job? Do we have any role or responsibility in life anymore? I like junk food. I like McDonald's, I like Wendy's, I like Burger King, I love Kentucky Fried Chicken, I love Ruth's Chris, my favorite steakhouse. Leave my salt and my McDonald's alone.
Come and pry it from my cold, dead hands. Now, a lot of those same people are suddenly, I don't know why, but all of a sudden taking those exact same ideas seriously now that they're coming from RFK Jr.
We have this crisis in our food supply in this country. That's going to be a major focus of RFK's. In the United States, we have almost 43% of adults now qualifying as obese.
I love RFK Jr. in this position because, Greg, we should be the healthiest country in the world, but we're the sickest country in the world.
RFK Jr., to his credit, is the right person to lead this effort at HHS. Now, can America do better on issues like obesity and heart disease and strokes and diabetes? Can we get rid of chemicals and hormones in our food like Europe? You know, it is time to make America healthy again through accountability and through transparency.
Sean Hannity is now on the let's regulate food the way the Europeans do train. Okay? Now that Trump ally RFK says junk food and obesity are a problem, I guess it has the thrill of dissident knowledge pushing against the system and the liberal elites. But of course, and here's the rub, really, along with some of these totally correct critiques of the status quo, the anti-system coalition that Trump has built is also full of ludicrous, delusional, dangerous ideas. In Kennedy's case, there are a lot of them.
There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective. I do believe that autism does come from vaccines.
And they get the shot that night, they have a fever 103, and they go into sleep, and 3 months later their brain is gone.
COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. The agency, the USDA, the FDA have been captured by the industries they're supposed to regulate. And they all have an interest in subsidies and then in mass poisoning the American public. There's a lot of people that said it's not a virus. 100% of the people who died in the first 1,000 who had AIDS were people who were addicted to poppers. They were people who were part of a gay lifestyle where they were burning the candle at both ends, and they were taking a lot of injectable drugs. They're putting in 5G to harvest our data and control our behavior. A lot of the problems we see in kids, and particularly boys, it's probably underappreciated that how much of that is coming from chemical exposures, including a lot of the sexual dysphoria that we're seeing. They're swimming through a soup of toxic chemicals today, and many of those are endocrine disruptors.
Where to start? I think my personal favorite might be that COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people, and that the most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. It's a pretty decent one. Now, obviously, all of that is either just flatly false or in some cases overstated so dramatically as to be deceptive. It's all nutty and in a lot of cases just genuinely dangerous fear-mongering. They just corrupted conspiratorial thinking. And Kennedy's most disqualifying statements, the reason that him being appointed to HHS is so grave, is his views on vaccines. And I don't want to overstate the case here. Vaccines are one of the 5 greatest achievements of human civilization, bar none. In fact, we've got a pretty good recent example. Just 4 years ago, we managed to develop a vaccine in the midst of a once-in-a-century pandemic. It was the one unambiguously good achievement of Donald Trump's first term. It saved millions of lives. But the denialism of people like Robert F. Kennedy poisoned the minds of hundreds of thousands of more who could have been saved, who refused the vaccine and died. The death toll is astounding. I don't know if there's a movement with a bigger one in recent times. This is a person who should not be anywhere near a health system of any kind, certainly not in charge of the federal agency responsible for drug development and vaccines and the health of hundreds of millions of Americans. So yes, there is plenty wrong with our food and health systems in this country. There are plenty wrong with a lot of the systems in this country. And the alienation people feel from them and the curiosity they feel towards folks that say it's screwed up is well earned. But this dude, Robert Kennedy Jr., is not the person to fix it. What he's going to do is break it. And break it so that we have something worse than what we have now.